Hello everyone, thanks for joining me in today's video. I'm Ibrahim, a software engineering student, and this is the first video in the API development series, which will be an introduction to API development. And today we will be seeing how to configure our server, and we'll take some examples about API. We'll just build a simple API, and in the future video, we'll dive deep into the API development world. So let's jump in.
So here we go. This is my terminal. This is just a web browser. I'm using Firefox for this video, but you can use whatever you want, maybe Chrome or Edge or Brave or anything you want. Okay, so I'm assuming that you know how to work with the terminal, and I'm assuming that you have also NodeJS installed. So let's create a new directory. Maybe let's name it intro API. Cannot create, permission denied. Okay, why is that? Yeah, okay, let's go to my folder, developer. Okay, and let's create this. Let's change to that folder we just created. Okay, now we need to initialize our node project or npm project. So we have to do npm init, and you can run this command and go for the configuration one by one, or just type -y to accept all the default ones. Okay, we'll see that configuration file in a minute. We also have to install Express. Okay, so Express is the most popular server technology for Node. Maybe most of the projects, web projects built by Node.js are using Express. Okay, now it's installed. Let's open this project. I'm using VS Code, but maybe you have another IDE or text editor. You can use whatever you want. Okay, I'm using VS Code. Okay, let's close this terminal. So our VS Code is now opened. So let's go to this file package.json. So when we run the command npm.init, we have created this file. Okay, so this configuration file of our project, we have name, version, description, main, scripts, and everything. We have dependencies where we will be installing anything new, any library or any dependency. So just a basic configuration. We have the name of our project, version, of course it's a new project, so the version is 1.0.0. Description is empty, and we have the main. Okay, so the main, which is index.js, which is where we gonna run our project. Okay, so we are using this file. Let's open a terminal in VS Code. Okay, if I just can type clear. Okay, so now if we try to use node index.js, so we are gonna find this error, okay, because we don't have this file yet. So let's create it. Okay, let's create file index.js. Okay, let's try this command again. Node index.js. So we don't have an error anymore, but we don't have anything, okay, because the file is empty. Okay, let's close this file, this configuration file. Let's test this file, maybe console.log and hello world. Okay, so node is working. Okay, let's go back to the package.json and let's talk about this script. Okay, so we need to add script. Okay, let's say start. So this script is we are simply taking the project or npm. When we run the command start, what we need to do. Okay, so we just need to node index.js. Okay, because we are running our project like this. Okay, so we just created a custom command which is start, and whenever we will run npm start, the npm will run this automatically. Okay, let's test it. So as you can see, okay, this is just the default lines, and here's our output. Okay, from now on we just gonna use npm start. Okay, we don't want to use this. Let's close it and let's clean our file. So the first thing we need to do is configure our server, okay, which is express server. So let's run express, which is require express. Now let's initialize the server. Okay, let's type express. So as you know, any server or any machine have two things. Okay, we have the address and port, but because we are running this server on our local machine, so the address is by default localhost or 127.0.0.1. okay, so we don't need to change anything, but we need to create a port. Okay, let's use 3080. Okay, so now we need to listen on that port. So let's type at the end of the file, so we have app.listen. Okay, so we need to listen on that port. Let's create an empty function, and maybe let's just say the server is running on port, and let's say port. Okay, so now let's run the server again. So as you can see, the process is still running, okay, and said the server is running on port 3080. So let's test this out, localhost 3080. So as you can see, the server technology is running perfectly, okay, or running correctly. Let's say correctly, not perfectly. Okay, but we have this kind of error. Okay, cannot get /. This /, maybe when you go to any website, okay, maybe let's say facebook.com. okay, so you have facebook.com like that, or maybe you have facebook.com /profile. Okay, maybe you have home. So this extension, okay, so we have the / and anything after it, we call that, maybe you call it route, but for the sake of this video, which is API development, we call that endpoint. So what this error is telling us, that we didn't define anything for this particular endpoint, which means also that we didn't tell the server what to do when the client requests this endpoint. Okay, but before that, let's talk about all the methods or functions. Okay, so this is just one of the many methods or many functions. Let's talk about the get concept. So we have something called CRUD. Okay, so CRUD is just an abbreviation for create, which is C, R, which is read or retrieve, U is update, and D, you guessed it right, delete. Okay, so let's say you have an e-commerce website, so and you want to add some kind of product. Okay, so you have to create that product, okay, to add it to your website. Let's say now you want to get that product, so you have to read that product from database. If you want to change it, you want to update that product, and if you want to delete it, you need to delete. Okay, the same thing for HTTP or for HTTP servers. So for create, we have the equivalent, which is post. Read, we have get, which is this one. Cannot read anything from that endpoint. And for the update, we have put. Sometimes maybe you find it as patch, which is the same thing, and delete. Okay. So this for databases, which is CRUD, and for HTTP we just simply we have some other methods, but this is the main ones. Okay, for main, post, get, put, and delete. Okay, so now we need to define the get method for this endpoint. I hope that makes sense. So we have app.get. So what's the first parameter for this function? You guessed it right. We need to define or maybe to specify the endpoint, which is for this case just /, which is the home route, if you can call it that. And we need some sort of function. We'll talk about this and this in a bit. And maybe let's say console.log you are in the home route endpoint. Okay, let's restart our server. For the future videos, we'll use other tool to restart our server automatically, so we don't have to stop it every time and run again. Okay, so let's try again. As you can see, nothing showed here, but in the terminal we have this message: you are in the home route endpoint, which is what we write here. Okay, but if you noticed, the tab is still loading. It didn't stop. Why? Because we told the server when the user requested this endpoint or this route, okay, just print this on the console, but do not do anything else. So he didn't do anything, and he's just still loading, right? Okay, let's stop. Thanks, my friend. Okay, let's stop our server. So maybe let's write this message here. Okay. So what we need to do, or before that, we need to talk about these two. Okay. So this is just request and response. Okay. What is request and what is response? So the request is just an object, sorry, which contain everything related to the client. Okay. Every information or anything, any data came from the client is in the request object. Okay, and the response, we use it to send our data to the client. So now we need to send a message here, response. Okay, so we have response dot send. We need to send him something, and let's send this message. Okay, let's try again. Okay, let's refresh this page. So as you can see, here our message, and as you can also see, the tab isn't loading anymore. Why? Because we told the server when the user requested this endpoint, just send him this, and that's it. Okay, don't do anything else. Okay, just send this and stop. Okay, but because we are talking about API development, we usually don't use this method send a lot. Okay, we use response.json. Okay, so we get JSON from the client and we send JSON. Okay, so let's just send this, the same message. Let's say response. Let's restart our server. Let's refresh. So as you can see, here's our API response. Okay, so because I'm using Mozilla, it has this kind of JSON tab by default. But maybe if you are using any other browser, you will have your response like that. Okay, and that's not a big deal. Maybe you can install some kind of extension to see it in a more beautiful way. Okay, so that's just a simple way of response. Okay, let's say we maybe let's create another endpoint. Okay, maybe let's name it users. Okay, response, maybe let's say user something here. Let's restart our server. Okay, let's just refresh this page. So our home page or this endpoint is just working perfectly. Okay, now let's go to /users. So we have this message. Okay, let's say we want to go to profile. So can you guess what will be the output? Maybe you guessed it right. Cannot get profile. Why? Because we didn't find anything for that specific endpoint. Okay, let's go back. And now let's create some kind of collection. Let's maybe say users. And let's say name is maybe Ibrahim. Okay, just to make it short, we have just an object of one attribute, just name. So we have name Ibrahim, we have John, maybe let's add Alice. Okay, and here instead of this, let's return users, right? Okay, let's restart our server. So let's refresh our page. So as you can see, we have our users. The first one Ibrahim, the second John, and the third Alice. Okay, but what we want just maybe John or Ibrahim, just we want a specific one. So for that, let's create another endpoint. Okay, so app.get, and here we need to use this trick. So we have / column ID. Okay, I just name it ID. You can maybe name or anything. Okay, let's name it cat. Okay, so here we want to return just one user. What I'm trying to use is maybe I want to get user with ID 1, maybe user with ID 2. Okay, you got it. Okay, so let's here. So if you remember, I said that the request, this object, is everything that came from the user. So this parameter, it must be here. Okay, yeah, and that's right. So we have request, those parameters, which is params, okay, for short, dot cat, which is this attribute. Okay, let's test it out. Okay, let's refresh this page. Our page is still working. Okay, users page, and let's got the user 1. Okay, so we have John. Okay, which is, maybe you said that this is the second one, not the first one. Okay, we all know that the list is starting from index 0, so this 0, 1, 2. If we want to go with the first one, we go to 0. Okay, maybe you can even set request.parameters.cat -1, and this will do the same work. Okay, so if you passed 1, we get this, 2, we get this, 3, we get this. Okay, so this is not how we normally do this. Okay, so we normally don't just send a random JSON, okay, from a random object in a random local variable. Okay, Normally we'll have some SQL lookup. Okay, so we have database and we search in that database and we send it back to the user. Okay, but because this is the first video in the API introduction or first video in API development list, so we just didn't use that. But in the future video, we'll be using, for the SQL database, we'll be using MySQL, and we'll have another video for NoSQL database. Maybe we will use MongoDB. Okay, just in the comment what you need to maybe learn, and we'll use that. Okay, and in this video, as you noticed, we didn't use these methods. Okay, we'll be installing some other software to create, which is post and put and delete. We just used get for this video, and for the future one we'll go in depth for the API development. Hope you understand the basics, and if you have any kind of question, just leave it below. Just leave a comment and I'll answer it. So I hope you understand. Thanks for watching and see you in the next videos.